So the MLB The Show Fall Cup is officially over. The tournament has concluded. It was this past Saturday. A guy by the name of Otoxy won it all. He's actually a viewer in my streams. He's a really good dude, a really good player. I'm going to have a little interview video with him. You'll probably see that out tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed to the channel and you want to see that, feel free to hit that red sub button down there. Unfortunately for me, I did lose in the first round. It was a little bit unfortunate with how things went down. No excuses. I lost fair and square, but I'll talk about all that stuff. If you're in the stream, you know what I'm talking about, right? So that'll all be in the later part of this video as I'm going over everything. But 128 people qualified, one person came out victorious, and overall, there's a lot we can learn from this tournament. Now, I'm going to give you guys my feedback about how I think things went. I'm going to tell you what I liked and what I didn't like, because I don't think the tournament was necessarily run well. I think there are a lot of speed bumps and hiccups that we got to get over before we jump into the next MLB The Show tournament, whenever that's going to be. I don't know if they're going to have a winter cup. I don't know if it's just going to wait till MLB 20 for a spring cup. We don't know what their plans are, but we have to make sure we give them some feedback and say what we like and we don't like. So I encourage you guys in the comments to sound off. If there's something in this video I don't talk about that you feel needs to be improved for the next MLB The Show esports competition, leave it down there. SDS, ESL, they're looking for feedback for this stuff, and I can pretty much guarantee you they're going to see this video and the comments, so feel free to let me know what your thoughts are. So let's get into my feedback. So the first thing is going to be the qualifiers. Let's talk about the structure of the qualifiers and what can be changed. So there were 8 qualifiers total. They were on 4 weekends, Saturday and Sunday, so you had to play 4 weekends in a row for those. You played 4 games per qualifier, giving you a total of 32 games overall. You got 5 points for every loss, and you got 20 points for every win, so you could finish with a minimum of 20 points for every qualifier and a maximum of 80 points. And every game is a 3-inning game, so that's basically the structure of the qualifiers. I think at the end of the day, the guy who finished first only lost like 2 games, whereas the guy who finished 128th, basically the last place qualifier, I think he won he lost like 14 games, something along those lines. So as far as the things I actually liked about the qualifier, I liked the scoring system. So I liked the 20 points for a win and the 5 points for a loss. I thought that was a pretty fair way of adding points into there. I think that was pretty solid. I also really liked the fact that it was implemented with the PlayStation Tournament app. I like the fact that it showed your match, it showed the opponent you're playing, so you could very easily send him a friend request. You could very easily report your scores with the PlayStation screenshots and everything. I thought that was run extremely smooth. Now, granted, there were times when, your opponent didn't show up, or when your opponent just tried to get a free win. They didn't even come to the game. They just reported that they won, blah, blah, blah. Like, there was a bunch of stuff with that, some of them got figured out, some of them didn't. So that's definitely something that needs to be cleaned up. But overall, for streamlining this, I think that was a very good way to do it. And now for things that I didn't like, I'm just not a big fan of 3-inning games for a competitive environment. I really don't think it tells you who the best player is 10 out of 10 times sort of thing. Like, if you're better than somebody, it might not show in the first 3 innings. It's all about making adjustments the second or third time through the order, figuring out a pitcher's tendencies and what a player likes to do, when they like to swing, all that stuff. There's a lot of mental game planning in a 9-inning baseball game that I just think works so much better for competition than 3-inning games. Now, granted, if you wanted to have 32 qualifier games, you can't make them 9 innings. That's a lot of games, especially in that amount of time. Like, they had to be 3 innings. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's the end of the world having qualifier games be 3 innings. But for the tournament, that's a different story. We'll talk about that when we get to the actual bracket side of things. Personally, for me, I probably would have done it a little bit different. I probably would have had, instead of you playing 4 3-inning games, I probably would have rather seen people play 2 9-inning games per qualifier. You just play less games, but the games at that point give you more competitive value, because if you lose a 9-inning game, that's a lot, that hurts you a lot more than, losing a 3-inning game, because 3-inning games, you play more of them, they take a little bit less time. And personally for me, I just think 9-inning games work better for competition, and I think it actually has the better players enter the tournament. Now, if you're a good player, chances are you still probably qualified for this tournament. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, for seeding and to really see who the better player is, 9-inning games are always going to be better than 3-inning games. I guess if you really wanted to, you could have a happy middle ground of having 6-inning games, but For me, I just would prefer 9. That's just my own personal preference there. Another thing that people really didn't like is the time commitment. You play 4 games per every qualifier for 4 weekends in a row, 8 weekend days in a row. And the thing is, they had it so where, like, if you play a game, you play a 3-inning game, right? You won't get your next game for like another at least like 45 minutes to an hour. So there was a lot of downtime between games, and the downtime for me, I feel like, is a little bit at sometimes unavoidable. I don't really feel like there's a lot you can do about that. For me, the time commitment is really not that big of a deal. If you look at other esports and see how long people are competing and how long it takes them to qualify for things and the amount of time they have to put into the game, 4 weekends is really not that bad at all. I think people just it's the first time MLB esports has been a thing. People are just like, I want to play it. Like, I shouldn't have to spend 4 weekends of qualifier. It's like, dude, if you play another esport, you're in for a rough surprise. So the time commitment really didn't bother me. I do wish at some point the downtime between Threeinning Games could be, kind of shortened up a little bit, but that'll just happen over time, I think, if that's something that does end up changing. The only thing I will say about the time commitment is that it's fine to have a small or big time commitment, whatever it is, as long as it's scaled to the prize pool. I do think the prize pool could have been a little bit better for 4 weekends of our time, but at the end of the day, that's I don't know what PlayStation's budget is for an esports tournament. I'm not sure. Another thing about these qualifiers, there really needs to be a lot more clarity and transparency in the rules for the tournament. So if you guys don't know, there were restrictions for the teams. You could only use 3 95 and above players for your lineup, 3 85 to 94s, and then the rest of your team had to be golds, and then you could use 2 95 pitchers, whatever it was, right? People got really confused because it said in your lineup versus your rotation. People were saying you couldn't use a pitcher in your rotation because that counts as a 4th 99. People were very confused. And while that does come as, that comes from the player itself getting a misunderstanding for the rules, I do feel like it could be written out and explained a lot better. Also, it really needs to be clear if Inside Edge has a factor or not in these games. I know Daddy Dimu almost got forfeited. I think he got his win because he used Roberto Osuna, who was an 83, and he was up to an 87 on the day, and the guy tried to forfeit him, saying that was another diamond, which is not the case because Inside Edge is never specified in the rules whether we can use it or not. Like, that's something that needs to be cleared up. Created player, can we use created player? He's listed as an 85 to 94 or whatever, but his attributes get up to a 99 when he uses equipment. Like, that's another thing. Personally, for me, I wouldn't have created player in the tournament at all. I think you should only be able to use like the real Diamond Dynasty cards, but that's whatever. It's just personal preference. But if you're gonna have creative player in there, I feel like there has to be some rules on that, or it has to be specified a lot better. And last but not least, one of the biggest things is it was never specified who was home team. People would say they messaged admins, and the admins said the guy on the left is the home team, and people were saying no, the guy on the right's the home team. Can we just have it say like Cougs is home, this guy's away, or Cougs is away, this guy's home? It makes it so much easier. Like, the fact that, I don't know, man, like, home field is a pretty big deal, especially in Threeinning Games. So that is something that really needs to be addressed. Now, at the end of the day, I think the best way Sony could improve this is literally just have a community member help with the tournament. Somebody who's got a really good insight on the competitive side of things, what rule sets work the best for competitive in MLB The Show. Let them help you. You don't have to do everything, but let them help you with how things are structured, because I think at the end of the day, a guy who plays the game competitively a lot or at the high level is going to have a pretty good idea of what rule sets work the best. At the end of the day, I think somebody who's got some sort of knowledge in the game should be there helping run these tournaments, because admins were giving people losses because they didn't know what the hell was going on in these games. Like, they were giving people losses because they were using a pitcher that they thought was ineligible but was actually eligible because of, unclear rules and all this stuff. So just get somebody from the community that actually knows about the competitive sides, and I think a lot of those problems get solved pretty easily. So that's pretty much all I have as far as the qualifiers. I do think that if there's a little bit more clarity and transparency in the rule set and actually the written rules, I think you could have another qualifier with this format. I think that'd be fine. Just fix up a couple little things. Okay, so now let's get to the bracket. The bracket, in my opinion, was a complete mess. And I'm not saying that because I lost. The reason I'm saying that is because, number one, it's 3-inning games again, which is fine, but you cannot have 3-inning games result in single elimination. If you don't know, the bracket was 3-inning games, and if you lose one time, you're eliminated. That's not good competitive environments for MLB The Show. Once again, 3-inning games do not always give the player the best opportunity to show if they should win or not. You know, there's a lot of fluky things that can happen in MLB The Show, just in baseball in general, and a 3-inning game does not determine the winner all the time. Now, if you want to do it best 2 out of 3 with 3-inning games, I think that's a little bit better than just single elimination, but for me, I would basically just have less people make the tournament, keep it single elimination, but 9-inning games. Like 9 innings is something you just need to have in a competitive environment. Once again, you might be able to have a happy medium with 6 innings, but for the most part, for a big competitive tournament, 9-inning games, longer games. You cannot have a tournament be 3-inning single elimination. It just doesn't work well that way. Now let's talk about probably the biggest issue, and that was the fact that they decided to randomize seeding for some reason. So basically, if you finished in the top 128 people in the qualifiers, meaning that you qualified for the actual bracket on Saturday, your seed in those qualifiers did not matter. They just literally took a list of 128 people, randomized it, and said, these are the seeds. What is the point of spending 4 weekends to qualify and get a good spot in qualifiers if you're just going to be a random seed when the tournament actually comes around? I finished in 4th place in the qualifiers. I played really hard. I was very focused. I was locked in. I lost 3 games in 4 weeks. I finished 4th. And I played the guy who was in 3rd place in the first round. Now, I don't want to get this twisted. I don't mind the fact that I played a good player. You have to beat the best to be the best. And this is a tournament. A lot of the people in the tournament are going to be good players. So the problem is not me playing a good player and losing. The problem is the fact that that's in the first round. What is the point of spending 4 weekends to qualify and earn a good seed to try to get like home field advantage throughout the thing if you're not going to have it matter when the tournament comes around and not have it communicated to the players? If I'm the 4th seed, I should be playing the guy who's like 125th or something like that. I'm the 4th seed and I played the 3rd seed. Like, how does that make any sense? And I really want to make this clear. I'm not upset that I lost. If you saw the stream, I handled it pretty well. I'm really not upset that I lost. I'm upset at the fact that 4 weekends of my time was basically erased for some random reason to give a guy who maybe got 14 losses in the qualifier a better seed than a guy who lost 3. It just makes no sense. Like, imagine the Nationals barely sneaking through the wild card game against the Brewers when they won it in the 8th inning off Soto's hit, and they get home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs after that. Like, no. They were a wild card team. The division winners should get home field. Like, it's a big deal. Something like that just cannot happen, especially with no communication to the players. If you said somewhere in the rules that the seeds were going to be randomized before the tournament, nobody would have spent time trying to get a top seed unless they wanted the stub reward for the top prizing for it. It was just a very, very sloppy way of organizing the bracket. Mix that with single elimination 3-inning games. Like, you get players who are ranked really high and they get randomly matched up with another high-ranked player. They get a 3-inning game to determine who goes on. Those are 2 really good players that are eliminated that should be meeting in maybe the semifinals versus the friggin' first round. So I think you guys get the idea there. That's something that cannot happen again, or if it does, you have to communicate that because that is just unbelievably ridiculous. But overall, those are kind of my thoughts. At the end of the day, I would personally just have less people qualify if it meant that we could play longer games. And I think the standings should matter, seeding should matter when it comes to that bracket. And at the end of the day, I just think there was a lot of things that were overlooked in this tournament, and once again, I do think there were things that were done well. I'm not going to say that it was completely an L, but at the end of the day, SDS, ESL, they're going to learn from this. They're going to build on this from the feedback that they get, and I don't think we'll see something like that again. Once again, whether it's in the winter, if they want to do a winter cup, or the spring, whatever it is, I don't think we're going to get another you know, kind of fiasco like that. So we'll see what happens, but that is my feedback on the tournament. If there's nothing in this video that I talked about that you think should be in the like the feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments. I can pretty much guarantee you they're gonna see this video. But if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you agree with me, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be posting that interview with Otoxy, the champion, tomorrow. So make sure to stick around for that. But I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.